Hi, I'm Ron from Sigma Canada, and welcome to our live presentation of Keeping Your Creativity Healthy During Pandemic Times by Jim Kopnick. Jim is a Sigma ambassador and independent digital journalist specializing in aviation, sports, and street/documentary photography. His current freelance clients include Sigma Lenses, Plane and Pilot Magazine, Our Wisconsin Magazine, Cirrus Aircraft, Old Glory Honor Flight, and the Oshkosh Convention and Visitor Bureau. Previously, Jim was chief photographer at the Experimental Aviation Association for 28 years. Kopnick's images have been printed in magazines such as Life, Time, Men's Journal, People, and Popular Mechanics. His advertising work includes Columbia Coffee, Sigma Lenses, Canon cameras, RANS aircraft, and Cirrus aircraft. His photographs have been consistent contest winners, including 2 Best of the Best photos in Aviation Week and Space Technology. Jim received the George Hall Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Society of Aviation Photographers. While enjoying Jim's presentation, please make sure to ask your questions in the comments box, as I'll be curating a selection for Jim to answer at the end of the presentation. Over to you, Jim.
Thanks, Ron. I appreciate the intro, and I appreciate the chance to present to you. Hold on, I'm going to. All right, small issue. All right, I think we are pretty well set here. All right, sorry about that. Little technical glitch with a box that wouldn't go away. Anyway, I want to talk to you about, it's kind of personal on how I made it through this pandemic creatively. And it has been a challenge. And this lead picture shows us life, what it was the end of February of this year, I'm sorry. It just seems like it's been several years. This was in Las Vegas, Nevada, and this was after the WPPI convention, Portrait and Wedding Photographers. And life was good. And, you know, I came back, I shot a lot of pictures there. I came back and, was fired up to get out of winter and get into spring and start taking pictures. And you all know what happened. COVID-19 started making its way around our countries. And I found this meme, which is, that's kind of how I amuse myself every day, is just going through Instagram, trying to find some humor. So this one pretty much described what I was. I went through a time where there were no pictures to take and we were locked down, and I pretty much just ate and watched Netflix for quite a few weeks in a row. And I wasn't happy about it. I started getting, I could feel the depression that I was in. And I knew I had to get out of it. So I take pictures for our Visitors Bureau. We're trying to promote our city and tourism and anything positive with Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So they asked me to take a picture of the local hotel that had done a heart in windows. This was going around in probably March, early April, to honor the hospital workers. So I did this, and it got me fired up to thinking about projects. What could I do instead of just sitting at home? And there wasn't a lot to photograph. How could I tie in what I was feeling and find some creativity out of it? So, and I think this is about the last meme I'm going to give you, but I saw this, actually it was an ad on Instagram, and that's pretty much how I felt. I act like I'm okay, but deep down, I need to take photos. So it got me thinking about local people in Oshkosh. That led to a blog for...
Sorry, Jim.
Yes?
I'm just going to interrupt. We're not actually seeing any images here.
You're not?
No, I sent you a text through the chat, but... Sorry, guys, just stand by for a second. There we go. And if you just go full screen.
It's weird. I'm not seeing it. Sorry about that. Are you seeing it now?
No, it was there for a minute, but it wasn't the full screen. It had the sidebar. So we're seeing it in YouTube now. Okay, and now you got to go to full screen to play. Yeah,
We got it.
we got it. So we're on the title card.
All right. All right, I apologize, everybody. Getting these glitches out of the way. I thought we had this in the beginning and I messed up clicking on something. So let me go through the pictures real quick just so you know what I was talking about. Las Vegas, back when life was normal. This was the hotel picture that that I took that sort of kicked me in the butt and said, you need to get out and take pictures. So that brought me to this idea of shooting local people. We were seeing all these pictures on the news of New York and some of the bigger cities and what they were going through. And we weren't experiencing that much here, but we were experiencing something. And I wanted to show it in a positive light for the city and for the people. And so this was my friend Julie, who works at a hospital that's just a few blocks away. And what I tried to do was shoot an emergency room worker that I was friends with. And it came down to there wasn't enough masking and gowning and whatever where I could get in. And we didn't know really what COVID-19 was that much in a personal sense back in March. So there was also this little caution of, do I really want to go into an emergency room if someone's got it? So my friend Julie came over, she was in her car and she was just about to go on her shift. And I was thinking, this is the perfect picture. It was a rainy day. I was using our new 24-70 Sigma DGDN lens because we had just come out with it. So I was shooting everything with it. And you know, this kind of became the lead picture for not just my blog that I had for Sigma, but also to get me going on trying to find other pictures that would express this. This is a small little town that is a little bit west of where I live. And I was out taking pictures, and I have to say, I felt a little funny about it in a way, like I wasn't sure if I could be out. And, you know, maybe this is about where I should throw in some footnotes that some of this is personal. I was going to do this totally from a chronologic point of view. And I decided no, because then I'll talk too much about how I felt going through some of this, through the fear of, you know, we were locked down. I wasn't an essential worker. Can I even drive around? You know, I don't want to catch this, you know, fighting a little personal depression on this of being locked down so long. So there were a lot of things going on. And I was in this little town and I stopped for gas and I looked and saw the theater with the closed sign. And I thought, you know, I'm feeling this. So I set up a tripod and I thought the thing to show was the movement of the car. So I just bracketed shutter speed and waited for cars to go by. And it was something that illustrated some of our closure in Wisconsin. So I started getting more ideas on what I could do to help people and show essential workers that had to be out there in sort of in the unknown, because in Wisconsin in March and April, we didn't know exactly how this was going to affect us or how much it was spreading. So this is my mail person, Michelle, that comes by every morning. And I thought I'd start improving my creativity a little bit or expanding it. So I put the 14-24 DGDN on my Sigma FP in the mailbox and talked to her and said, here's what I'm going to do. So put the mail in slowly and tried a few shots. And this is what I ended up with. By the way, you'll notice I do have the metadata, camera, lens, and settings under most of the pictures. Any questions about it, you can ask that later. If there are something that really jumps out at me, I'll try to mention it. You know, and I started talking about some of this from a personal standpoint. And this isn't just, you know, pictures from the pandemic. This is my mother-in-law. She's in a memory care facility. Being locked down means she has no contact with family. And my wife went over to visit with her, looking through a window, and my mother-in-law couldn't quite grasp what was going on in a way. And I wanted to take pictures. I wanted to document some of this without invading her privacy too much. But of the pictures I took, this one kind of struck me, where she was just didn't exactly recognize my wife and was just kind of looking out into the sky in the backyard of this facility. This is trying to show the positivity. Once I started working with this idea, my creativity started building, and then one idea begot another idea. And so this was at my credit union, and everyone was putting up hearts for the hospital workers, the healthcare workers. So I had the girl that was putting it up put her head through the window just so we could add a face to this. So instead of everyone's behind locked doors, at least we can see a face. Now, one thing I was seeing were there were a lot of pictures from New York and some of the bigger cities showing them totally deserted. And, you know, I thought, am I going to see that in Oshkosh? Well, in the beginning, I didn't. There were a lot of essential workers that were going to work. And, you know, we didn't seem like we were following, you know, the deserted streets of a lot of the cities that I saw. But I was trying to figure out how to show some of that without just saying, here's another deserted street, or here's a street with a few cars on it. So I got in the back seat and had my wife drive through and try to slow shutter speed. And in this one, I decided to stay in color because I wanted to, it just seemed like black and white was too bland, that, you know, there was still hope. There was still color in the main street. Lights were on. A few businesses were open late. And this was, you know, a few businesses were open late, as I mentioned, on Main Street, but takeout delivery really, you know, took off. And if I looked out my driveway, I'd see cars with the signs from different restaurants on, just going back and forth. I live on a fairly busy street. So I got the idea of, you know, I was going to shoot that. And one thing I like to do is pan. I like to show movement. So this is one where I just stood out there for a while and panned some of the different cars going by from different restaurants. And I thought it would illustrate the idea that, at least in Oshkosh where I live, a lot of people are relying on food delivered to their door. You know, one more aspect of all this. This is a friend of mine that owns a coffee house that I frequent a lot. And he was doing a lot of help with food and donating to people, but he wasn't getting a lot of business. Everyone was afraid to go out. So I was talking to him one day, and he walked over by the door, and it's like, this is the perfect picture. So with a wide angle lens, I shot this. I overexposed it a little bit so I could blow out the distracting background, and got a picture of my friend Ken waiting for customers, where back in April and even May, the customers weren't really showing up. And it was nice, you know, in trying to share some of this and express it. Our Library of Congress has it on their Flickr page. So one more way to get what I was trying to do in Oshkosh and with this whole theme out. And I'm going to jump back to the personal thing too. We're trying to, you know, this blog for Sigma was on essential workers, and that's this whole series I just showed you. One of my favorite essential workers is a telehealth counselor that I still go to on a monthly basis just to check in and just to make sure that, you know, there's not any issues with, you know, I'm not sure what all you're doing in Canada, but here, between the lockdown and wearing masks and everything that's been canceled, you know, it kind of wears on you. And it takes away your creativity. There are times I still gotta, get up and say, I'm gonna take a picture today, because otherwise I'm gonna sit at the couch or sit at the TV on the couch and watch TV. And so it's something I'm finding during the pandemic to keep me healthy, is I need to do this so that I can go keep my creativity healthy. All right, keep it at home is, you're locked down. What can you do to come up with picture ideas? Well, your family is your first set of subjects. I mean, your home, it's so shooting that, trying to take it to another level. This is one of my grandsons, and we had just come out with 100 to 400 contemporary, and so I was shooting that for everything. Your pets, they're there for us all the time. This is my grandniece and my grandniece again. And the nice thing with, we trust our family members to be healthy through all of this. But still, it's nice to be able to do some of this with a telephoto and keep some distance, maintain, you can actually maintain more than the 6 feet that they talk about in the United States for social distancing. And, it gives you a chance to, hang out and wait for those special moments. It's not just here, pose for the camera, but, wait for the candid shot. There's a news photographer in me. That's how I started. And a few years ago, I was still shooting for a Gannett paper here in Oshkosh. And I still love just capturing that moment. There are times I want to set something up to get a point across and to illustrate something. But candid moments are just something, that are kind of magical, and you can tell it by the look. So, you've got your family, you've got your pets. Oddly enough, I don't have a picture of either one of my cats in here, because they are usually my first subjects that I go to. And I kind of want to say they kind of helped me through this pandemic. Actually, we're still in it, but helped me through. One other thing, I shouldn't say one other thing, but something that really helped me get through. And this may sound like a sales pitch, and I'm proud of Sigma and working with them. So I'm going to make it that, but it's also more from a creative standpoint. Is throughout this pandemic, Sigma has come out with lenses, and it kind of, each lens sparked my creativity a little bit. So if I couldn't go do this or that, or all these things were canceled, all of a sudden I have a new lens. I have the 24 to 70 DGDN. Then we came out with the 100 to 400 contemporary DGDN. All of these for Sony. And I've shot Nikon and Canon, and I've switched over to Sony exclusively. So this was great to have Sony mount lenses, but with Canon glass and Canon sharpness and Canon, just the professional way these lenses are built. Then we came out with the 85, and then we came out with the 105 macro. And every time we did this, I had to produce pictures. So that sort of gave me the incentive to get out and create. And, I'm sort of an equipment junkie. I want to have the latest. So I would have done this anyway, but during this pandemic, where I was getting depressed and all my venues were drying up, there was nothing to shoot, I lost most of my clients, this gave me a reason to go out and shoot anything, to go out and shoot a sunrise, to go out and shoot family members. So trying something new for me was lenses. Trying something new was also macro. Macro was something that I play with every now and then. I'll go shoot a flower, but macro is something you can do at home. You don't necessarily have to go out, and you find a whole new world that's out there when you start exploring what you can do and some of the techniques. This is an old pocket watch my grandpa had. Took the back off and was surprised at all the intricate movements. This is something I have wanted to do. I've seen people shoot the water drops that become a lens and show you the image that's behind them. And and this is something to research. I'm doing a macro class with you guys tomorrow, and I'll share the secret of doing this better. But I did this with just plain water drops, and I bet I spent an hour trying to put enough water on to form a drop and shoot it before it fell off, and it fell off really quick. So I was really proud that I got this image. But there's a secret to make that work, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. So, trying something new it doesn't have to be macro for you. It could be anything you're not used to shooting. And the other thing, you can just go outside. You can go outside in your yard, which is something I just did a Star Trail shot 2 nights ago out in my yard. So getting outside of the house, you can do it safely. And there's so much out there. And I like to try different lenses. I like to try different ideas. I like to drive around. You can be alone driving around and just look for what's around you. And this was a dandelion, and I had my wife hold it up so that I could keep it centered on the sun. And I just love the silhouette that it created. And it was just fun driving around doing something like that. This is, I talked about how lenses can spur some creativity because it's something new that you haven't tried before. So you want to stretch your limits a little with it and see what it can do. This is the 100 to 400 DGDN, but it's on my Sigma FP. And in the L mount, Sigma makes a 1.4 converter and a 2x converter. So if I put the 2x on there, I've got the equivalent of an 800 millimeter lens, which is a lot of fun. All of a sudden, you're looking at life totally different. And I've had in the back of my mind to photograph these wind generators that are across we've got a pretty big lake by our city. And I've had them, I've had the idea that the sun coming up and the grain of it was there. I just needed to expand upon it and actually do it. So I went out and just gave it a try to see what I could get. And having 800 millimeters to capture your imagination was just unreal for me. And having the seagull fly over the top of it was just icing on the cake. Yes, you shoot a lot, but I want to go back to just what 800 millimeters does. It opened up a whole new world of creativity to me. Here's another one. It's just a weed with the sun going down. This was during the time this spring or this summer when a lot of the fires were going on. So we were getting some beautiful sunsets. And some of them were actually, you see the background kind of turning gray. That's kind of what it was doing too. And, it was really diffusing the sun. But, you can have a lot of fun when all of a sudden you're shooting a super telephoto. Now, I did do shots of the moon. This is talking about from your backyard. This is from my backyard. And you can also grow with all of this. One of the things I'd love to leave you with is that never stop learning. And I am always learning. I'll talk about that tomorrow with macro too. But I remember shooting this with the 800, or I should do quotes 800, the 100 to 400 lens with the 2x teleconverter on my FP. And I shot the full moon. I thought this was really cool. There's a full moon, and I'm sure that it had a special name because there were quite a few named moons this year. And I thought it was great, but it was really, I don't even know if I want to call it noisy. My post-production was terrible on it because I was trying to get the craters to show. And then I read an Instagram post that said, don't shoot the moon when it's full, shoot it when it's, a half to going toward a crescent, because the sun is coming at more of an angle and it just naturally makes those craters pop. And I tried it and it works fantastic. So this is with my 600 or 60 to 600 Sport. I did put the 1.4 converter on. And this is with my Sony a7R IV. I love the high megapixels so I can enlarge it a little bit more and not lose anything. And, once I found this technique, I shared it with a bunch of friends, and it's like, that really works. That's the creators just show up in your image so much better. So if you follow me at all on social, you may not see any more full moon pictures. You're only going to see these segments that show a whole lot more detail. Being able to go out also gave me the chance to do some star trails. This with the Sigma FP. It's a great camera for high ISO, and these are just kind of fun to do, and it gets you out of. For me, it got me out of the house. It gave me something creative to do, and that just kind of snowballs with everything else. The same with this, the Milky Way. It's something I haven't shot a lot, and on something I've got a automator that's supposed to keep the camera locked on it, so I am really waiting to give that a try. But this is just one exposure. I caught a couple of, I'm not sure if those are meteorites, or I think they're probably more airplanes. And the light in the bottom is Lake Michigan. This was shot from the Wisconsin side of Lake Michigan, and it's showing you lights from the, actually it's the west side of the state of Michigan. And it adds a kind of a little interest and separates the lake in the foreground from the background. So getting outside and shooting stars, the moon, the sun, all of that stuff, I don't know, for me, it's always fun to shoot a sunrise. It's always fun to shoot a sunset. And that each one of those helped build my creativity through all of this. Help someone else. And, the pictures in the beginning was the start of this. It was the start of that concept, honoring our healthcare workers and our essential workers. And, as the pandemic went on in Oshkosh and trying to help out the Visitors Bureau, there were a lot of restaurants and a lot of places that were starting to go out of business. So they started to, honor some of these businesses. And I had this idea driving around to pick up some takeout one night when I saw different neon signs on some of the buildings. And it just sparked this idea that I'm going to go through town and try to find out how many neon signs I can find. So I limited it to restaurants and food. And actually I found quite a few more as I drive around. But this became a little advertising thing for our city for a while, to help keep restaurants going and order takeout or delivery. And that concept then led to a Sigma blog on supporting our local restaurants, trying to show what you can do and hopefully inspire someone else to do something like this to help out their city or their area. And some of this was just to show, taking good pictures of something is better than taking it with an iPhone. So some of this started out with this friend of mine that owns a restaurant, and I was playing around with the FP, just like with the mailbox picture, where let's try something different. Let's, capture their attention with how did you do that? So this is just inside a warming rack that was turned off, and my FP is in there on a timer. And I came up with this. And that kind of sparked some of the interest on social for a while. And then it was, all right, we're going to start having food delivered. I'm going to take a picture of it. And this is what we're going to run. I was going to run it on social. The city ran it on social, and the restaurants ran it. So it got good play in trying to build up people with the concept that, let's help each other out. This is probably my most favorite picture from this shoot, from this subject area. This was a hot dog joint, very small. There were 3 stools in there, and it had the black and white tile floor. And the red stool and the black and white tile, this graphic thing came to mind. So I just used my 24-70 and tipped the screen back on my camera and lined everything up. And like I said, I love the graphic part of this. And it was something that, because it caught the eyes of people on social media, it also helped out the hot dog stand a little bit. You know, every time we had food delivered, I tried to do something different. I tried to do, when I looked through my pictures, there were some, you know, my wife holding a plate out, or, you know, holding food up by the TV, or, you know, I wanted something different. I didn't want every picture looking the same. I do like to do straight down pictures sometimes because depth of field isn't as much of a problem as shooting across at something. So this was delivery with shrimp and cornbread and a quesadilla. And I had the concept of, let's put them on black plates and on a wooden cutting board, and we'll stay really graphic with this. So this was, you know, and I should say the food thing is still going on. All of this stuff kind of, you know, I would do a dozen shots and it would sort of peak on social, and then we'd go off on another project for the city. So, but this is something that is still ongoing, and I'm still shooting to hype restaurants, and even more so, I think they're talking, you know, that it's going to be a rough winter, that Wisconsin, the state I live in, my city, may be locked down. They're encouraging takeout and delivery and not to go to restaurants. So this is something that is ramping up again so that we can have everybody up to speed before we get locked down again. One other thing that was big in the beginning of the pandemic was taking porch portraits. And I didn't do a lot of this. This was one for a friend, but I know it got to be really popular. And so it gets across that you want to be safe. It gets across sharing with people. You know, it had some really good feelings behind it, I think. I also, one of the things that Ron mentioned is I shoot for Old Glory Honor Flight, and they do honor flights to Washington, D.C. with veterans. So taking the porch portrait thing a little bit further, we went around to shoot vets, and we did it in a very socially distanced manner. We were very concerned about their health. This man is on the second floor of a care center, and he opened his window, took the screen off, and I shot this at 200 millimeters on my 70-200 and did some cropping and enlarging to get this. But it shows you what you can do, you know, socially distanced. And it was something that for these veterans and at their age, it was something their families really loved. Same with this gentleman. He's inside his garage. It worked out really nice because he had blinds. You can see the creases in the back. It's not just a flag hanging, but they're blinds. And he pulled that away from the window and looked out. And to me, it made the perfect way to frame it, where he's trying to stay safe inside his house, but we're still sharing, and he can share that with his loved ones. What I'm doing and trying to help out right now, my current project is a masking project for the Visitors Bureau in the city. And it's going around trying to shoot 100 leaders in the city, showing that they think masks are a great idea to help keep the pandemic in check and get our numbers down. And this project with 100 people, and I had a little over a week to do it. If you check the metadata, I decided I was going to use the 16 millimeter DCDN lens. This is, it's a crop sensor lens, but it works great on a full frame Sony. And it's small, it's light, and it's really sharp. And it's an f1.4. Most of what I did was available light. I did have a little LumaCube that I would hold up. LumaCube, I can't say that, LumaCube panel, just for a little catch light sometimes. But I went around and did 100 portraits, and it was great with this lens because that's all I had to carry. And this is what we ended up doing with it. They got a quote from everybody, and they reminded them to wash their hands and wear a mask and social distance and love your neighbor. And and try to keep everything as positive as we can. And this is another thing that they used with some of these pictures cropped in on them. So this is still ongoing in my city of Oshkosh, and we're still taking pictures. People are sending in pictures, and we are trying to expand the idea of what can we do if we have 200 pictures or 300 or 400. And I'm working on a photo montage. I'm working on how can I incorporate these in a video. So this is keeping me pretty active right now. And this, because, you know, talk about one lens, I love the fact that I had 4 lenses throughout this year to play with from Sigma. The 16 is a little bit, I think that's been out for a year or two, but when you just have one lens to shoot, it changes your I mean, you have to think about your creativity. How am I going to do this? How am I going to put their head? Here's the location that I have to shoot them in. Where am I going to find my light, or what's the background? How's this all going to work out? So this is still keeping my creativity going, trying to figure some of this out sometimes. Work safely. This is not just for me, but it's for your subject. And I started this, I think this was toward the end of April, and this is a local singer. And she was starting, it was, I think, her first Facebook Live event that she was going to do singing. And I took her outside quick. And at that time, we weren't all required to wear masks. You know, it was just starting to come in, but it's like, let's put a mask on you and put the microphone up there, because I think this is going to be a good example of what is going to be coming. And I don't usually use a 50 to 100. It's a beautiful little lens that we make, but I had it with me. I've just started playing with it. And I thought this portrait just came out beautiful. This is just available light. She's standing in front of an old building. Depth of field was really shallow, and it just blurred everything out. And all you can really see are just her sharp eyes. Now, taking the same theme then, this is another singer in my city, and trying to stay distanced again, using the 100 to 400, shooting at 400. And the nice thing about this is a huge mural that's on the side of a building behind her. And I'm at a safe distance from her, and I can zero in and blur out that building a little bit so that you get the idea there's a record player in the back with a big megaphone coming out. But you can see her, and you can see how sharp she is, but there's still safety. You know, I can do my job, and I feel safe about it, and she feels safe about it. And that's something a lot of my photographer friends have talked about. This one, I threw it at the last minute only because there was a restaurant that we go to in the summer and sit outside, because a lot of restaurants in Oshkosh, they weren't doing indoor seating. They could only do outdoor seating to be safe about it. And there was a picture of this tropical beach on the wall of a building across the driveway. And an idea just clicked. So I had a friend of mine show up one morning before everything opened, and I shot this of her, so it looks like she's in the beach scene. And the lighting on this, just to show you, sometimes you have to be inventive when you're trying to do something, is that's just the hood of my car that's reflecting the light up on her. And it was kind of a fun little picture to do, where when we couldn't go anyplace, it shows like at least you can in your dreams. Now, the first singer that you saw, Frankie, needed some pictures for a record cover. And, you know, again, wanting to be safe socially about this, I decided, instead of trying to set up in a studio, we needed studio type shots for what had to be done, that I'd set this up in my garage so that we had open air, that I could shoot with a telephoto from a distance. This is the shot that I got. We have a piece of glass in front of her, and her mother and my wife are pouring water down on each side. We're trying to time this so that I can keep her eye in focus, and she had to have this look. and we ended up with that for the cover. But what I like about it is that we did all this safely, that we did all this, we're being creative, but we're being safe about it. The same with my friend Annalise. She needed some pictures, and we had just come out with the 105 macro, and shooting macro pictures. I mean, this lens is made for it, but it's a 105. It's also a great portrait lens, and I was trying to show that. So this gave me the opportunity, shooting in my garage, white background, and safely shooting her. Safe opportunities. I'm watching the time here too, so I don't want to go through this too quickly. But for where I live, almost everything was shut down. Every big event. We have a big rock concert thing. We have a big country music concert. We have EAA, which is the biggest airplane gathering in the United States. So many things were shut down, but a few things that were outside in the open air were available. So they did have boat races. So I would scour Facebook and the paper for events coming up. I'm a sports photographer. I'm an action photographer. And it was great. I was shooting portraits of people. I love that. But I was craving action and craving something that I could, keep my muscle memory and my creativity going. So I had boat races to choose from. I have a friend that bikes. I did a series on him biking with using the 100 to 400 so I could keep a distance. This is a setup shot with him shooting water. It was actually harder than I thought it was going to be, but we did get one that I think proved the point. I did get to shoot some air-to-air pictures, and the nice thing about this is you are pretty socially distanced. So this worked out good, and it gave me a chance to try the 100 to 400 millimeter lens, as well as the 85. There were not a lot of sporting events, and it was rough for a sport photographer to not be able to shoot anything. High schools canceled everything. But oddly enough, in the summer, certain high schools, and this, I guess, all came down to individual school districts, they all decided that, we could play if we did this. If they were outside, they didn't wear masks. If they were inside, they wore masks. It was kind of spotty. So it was something where if I wanted to find a game, I had to be on social or be on calendars, looking every day to see what schedule was and what wasn't canceled. The same thing this fall with football games. It ended up being only 2 teams, I think, playing in our area. So I did every game I could go to, it was one to go out and shoot so that I could shoot some action, give the parents and the kids some pictures that they could have. And it just, and if anything, just the fact that I'm shooting made me feel better. Just shooting boats. This was a fishing tournament. They were all socially distant. They were wearing masks before they went out. And, this was another promo for the city that I did. And it was, and a chance to, try to do something creative. And the last thing, and I think I've done some of this through it all, but share yourself. You can do that with social media. You can do this just like this meeting. I have been doing Zoom presentations, and happy to do them wherever. Just, especially in the beginning, it was just so we could talk to people, so people could share ideas. And this was also, not just Zoom for that, but for my photographer friends. And, I've been out a lot shooting. You saw a lot of pictures that I shot over the last 8 months or so. But these are photographer friends of mine. Some of them have not gone out. Some of them go out and shoot an assignment if one of them works for a newspaper and comes back and pretty much stays at home the whole time. The other is pretty much staying at home. One is afraid to go out. So this was something where I thought I was being overly cautious, and then I find out other people are going through this too. That I feel bad for my one friend that is a great street photographer and used to be out daily taking pictures in Oshkosh on the street and capturing life, and now he's home. And it's sad, but we were using Zoom to get together and try to have weekly meetings. We used to meet once a week for lunch or coffee, and this was a way in the beginning to do it. For some reason, we have lost that. The pandemic has been rough on everybody, and that is rough on your creativity. So we talked the other day, and it's like, we need to get these going again. Things are getting worse. We're coming into winter, which I'm thinking that Canada is probably worse for winter than we are in Wisconsin, but it's always kind of a rough time. We were kind of holed up anyway at home. So, reaching out to your fellow photographers, creating small groups, doing this, it doesn't have to be formal, but reaching out and sharing ideas on how to be creative and how to get through all of this, I think is a really good thing to do. And that brings me to the close of this. And I always have trouble finding my mouse, my cursor. So I thank you. I hope that, I wanted to be personal about this a little bit because I've gone through depression with being locked down, and I've gone through a loss of creativity. And these were some of the ways that helped me get through it. And I talked about wanting to do this chronologically. And I threw some of that in, but I bounced around too, trying to stay on subject, because if I try to do this chronologically, then I start telling you everything I went through, how I needed to kick in a butt all the time. And the thing is, I still need that. There are times that, I force myself to get up and shoot a sunrise, or I'm glad that I have a few assignments now and then because they get me out of the house, because I'm still going through that. So, and I guess if you're going through that, it's, we're all in this together. So, reach out to your friends, reach out to your fellow photographers. There's my social contacts. Reach out to me if you want to follow me on social, if you want to email me, if you have technical questions on the lenses, or if you just want to talk about what you're going through too with all this and how you're coping it. I'm open to ideas because I want to keep learning too. So Ron, back to you.
Jim, thank you very much. Just want to make sure that we're both up on screen. There's just a slight delay on the YouTube. Jim, thank you. That was a really inspirational presentation. And you've really, I'm glad you touched on the points of how you've felt in isolation, because I'm that photographer that has been sitting at home for the last 6-7 months, and I haven't gone out and tried to push myself to try new things and find new ways of being creative, because the photography that I used to do is just really not possible. So you've really inspired me to get out and start shooting again. And you've shown how life can go on and does go on, even photographically in a pandemic. So by staying safe, working safe, finding those safe opportunities that you mentioned, truly inspirational. We haven't really gotten a lot of questions, but there was one particular comment that I wanted to relay, and we had a little bit of a technical glitch at the beginning, but Mike Rumble actually shouted out to Mike. Despite that, I absolutely appreciate an actual live presentation. So guys, it was our pleasure to do this, and thank you for that comment. I do have, I'm just gonna, I made some notes for myself that I wanted to, that shot of your friend Ken, the restaurant owner there, and I noticed there was this little sign in the top right corner. I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but it says, "The herd will return soon." And I thought that was quite interesting with, the point that you were making, that hopefully, once this pandemic is over and people will go back, and hopefully we are able to support these small business owners during this time. Other points of your shot of your mail person with the 14 to 24 and the Sigma FP in the mailbox. What a great idea, just to find new ways of being creative and yet socially distant. So that really inspired me. And your point about the new gear, and Sigma has put out a lot of new gear this year, despite the pandemic. And we've certainly seen, some trends that you touched on today, the macro photography, which you're going to be talking about tomorrow. And I do encourage people tomorrow, Friday, November 20th, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. Jim is going to be presenting Turn the Ordinary into Extraordinary, Get Creative with Exceptional Macro Photography. So I do invite you to join us for that as well. But I love the fact that you were trying out this new gear. And as I was mentioning, we've seen some trends where macro photography has really taken off this year, because there's all this great subject matter right in your own home and in your backyard. And then the other one is the long telephoto zooms, the 100s to 400s, the 60 to 600. I joked around with some colleagues at Sigma about it's the Hitchcock Rear Window effect, where we can't get up close and personal, but we can get closer with these long zooms. So that was really great that you had mentioned about how this new equipment has inspired you to try new things. And I was really touched by your porch series of the veterinarians and the gentleman with the American flag with the louvers behind his head. So it really is possible to go out there and keep shooting, isn't it?
It is, and to comment on the one comment that you had, I wish I was there in person. I had a shoot in Toronto a few years ago. I love the city. I would love to be walking around there, and I would love to be. The event looks great from the pictures I saw on the website, so I would rather be there in person. The only other thing would be that if we were all sitting around having coffee someplace and in exchanging these ideas and realizing that we're all going through this, we all handle it different. We can all help each other, find other ways to make this work.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the key to staying healthy, both physically and mentally, is reaching out to our friends, to fellow photographers, to keep inspiring each other, both photographically and just supporting each other and moving forward. We're all going to get through this. And I love how you turn this challenge into a challenge creatively to find new things to do and how to keep going and keep motivated. So you've certainly inspired me. Our weather's turning a little bit in Canada. As you mentioned, it's starting to get cold, but certainly lots of opportunities. And, Toronto's a great city. We hope, maybe one day we will be able to have Profusion live again. I believe this is the 11th year running that they've done it. And I participate in every year since, and we hope to get back to that live experience. But in the meantime, this has been a fabulous presentation for us. And I just have one question for you, kind of looking forward to the future. And once this whole pandemic is over, and hopefully we're going to be out of it in the next several months, have you been working on any new ideas or concepts or learning something new during COVID that you can't wait to try out once we're over this whole lockdown and staying socially distant? Is there anything that you're looking forward to, either photographically or otherwise?
And I think the first thing I want to do is I want to shoot sports. I covered high school and college sports for the newspaper, and there's something about shooting the action and trying to capture that moment, but also being there with the fans and your friends. And, there's a social thing to it. That would be one. The other is going to New York and sitting on the street watching people and I don't know. You get ideas, you see pictures, it's just such a great place, but I just miss that connection with people and culture and society. And if I go any place, maybe I'll be Chicago first, but I want to go someplace and just watch people be themselves and see life and try to capture it.
Yeah, I totally get you. That's what I like to do, and it's that part of photography that that close-up documentary street shooting that we're not able to do. And so I too look forward to heading into a big city and being able to do some of that. And so once again, Jim, thank you very much. It's been truly informative, entertaining, and inspiring most of all. Once again, guys, I do invite you to join us again tomorrow at 2 p.m. Where Jim will be talking about macro photography. And please do follow Jim on social. And as he's mentioned, reach out. He's available to us, very generous of you. Again, follow us on social media, Sigma Canada. And guys, everyone stay safe. Have a good afternoon, and we'll see you soon. Thanks again.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Jim.